Hi, I'm going to take a few minutes here to discuss the Double D Drysuit. And you know, when you look at buying a dry suit of this caliber, you're looking at spending as much money as you spend on your boat, maybe even more money you spend on your boat. And so, to really do this product justice, I wanted to spend some time with the designer of this garment and really go over all the primary features of this garment. With me here is Jess Whittemore, who's our head of R&D and all the technical development here at Immersion Research, and he was really the guy who made this suit come to be. I know, Jess, that you've been making paddle sports gear for a long time.
Probably over 30 years.
And really, I look at this suit as a culmination of your experience. I mean, to make a suit that's dry for paddle sports sounds easy, but it's not. It's a very complicated process.
Yeah. Well, when you're making spray skirts and paddle jackets and dry tops, along the way you learn where things leak and what problems will rise when you do certain things, and then you correct them through feedback with your pro boaters or customers. Mm-hmm. And eventually then you get the confidence to be able to make a dry suit because the customer is going to hold you to the words of dry.
Right. So let's go over some of the basic features of this thing. And this is some of the features that maybe all dry suits have in common, but just for the benefit of the customer, let's go over the basics.
Okay. Well, the Double D dry suit has a latex neck with a neoprene outer cuff. It has latex wrist gaskets with a nice adjustable neoprene cuffs. The latex gaskets are glued in. We glue them right to the four-layer fabric. As you can see, there's a glue taper between the fabric and the latex. It goes from the thickness of the fabric down to nothing over a small distance, which makes for reduces the stress that rises right at the edge of the fabric. With your sewn and taped gaskets, you have an abrupt area of where the stresses are, and they do tend to dry rot there first. Because they're glued in, they're also very easy to replace. You can replace the gaskets yourself at home. If you're very careful by just peeling the gasket off of the fabric, being careful not to tear the fabric, then you can glue on another one. It has a relief zipper, and it has reinforced fabric booties.
So I noticed that the zippers we're using, and I remember we did some research into this, the zippers we're using aren't the traditional brass coil zips you see on some other models of dry suits.
Yeah, this is a new technology. It's a urethane zipper. I chose it because it's very flexible, so it's up on your shoulder, and when you're doing the kayak movements, you can barely notice that it's there, whereas a metal coil zipper, you'll notice it amazingly amount.
I also noticed we put the zipper up on the back of the suit. Now, many dry suits have what we call a front entry zipper, where you crawl into the front of it. What's the benefit of what we call a rear entry zip, like the one here?
Well, most of our customers are kayakers, and they have to put a spray skirt on. If you have the zipper running down the front of you, and you put the over tunnel on it and stuff, water tends to follow that zipper down into your spray skirt and into your boat. We chose to put it up top for the kayakers and the canoers, just because, mostly of that reason, and because of the freedom of motion.
So I know one of the things that we spent a lot of time working on was the fabric. Dry suit fabric, you run a fine line between being too breathable and not breathable enough, and then you have durability issues as well. What do we know about this fabric here? What can you tell us about the fabric?
Well, over the years, we made dry tops, and they went out. People used them for years. We'd see them come back for repairs, and we noticed that in certain areas of the garments you'd get high wear and they would leak there. So we worked with our fabric manufacturer to develop this four-layer fabric to be highly abrasion and abuse resistant, at the same time maintain its breathability, which are somewhat contradictory terms because very, very durable fabric tends to be non-breathable, yet ours is.
Another thing that I know personally about this dry suit is that the pattern work is deceptively simple. It looks simple, but having spent a lot of time digitizing these patterns and grading them all, I know it's not the case. What can you tell us about how the dry suit's shaped and how you put the pieces together?
Yeah. Well, through the years I've learned that taping the garment is the second most important thing for waterproofness besides the quality of the fabric. So the entire garment has got T seams in it. If you'll notice, a seam comes up to another seam and then it goes across. The whole garment's full of T seams and never cross seam. Cross seam is where you have two seams going like this. And the reason is because if you have a cross seam, then you've got a huge bulge of fabric that you have to tape over in behind. So we have no cross seams. The garment is also cut in such a fashion with the idea that if it's ergonomic and shaped like a kayaker with the arms forwards, then and we cut the jacket for that person, then there'll be less air space to heat when it's cold out. So you'll notice the arms are kind of kicked forwards and arched forwards. That reduces the amount of fabric found in the chest area. Yet there's a liberal amount of fabric behind you where you need it, so that when you're doing strokes and reaching far forward, you have plenty of fabric and does not bind up.
I know it's also cut for a sitting position as well.
Yes. Yes, the length of the back of the garment is far longer than the length of the front of the garment. And that also reduces the amount of airspace that you have to heat. And these are simple yet important things for the total performance of the garment.
Well, let's turn the garment inside out and take a look under the hood, so to speak, and look at some of the work you're doing inside here. So the first thing I noticed is we had this neoprene waistband right here. You chose to do this rather than maybe a buckle you see on the outside of the suit.
Yes. This waistband was basically taped to the inside of the dry suit. There's no seam all the way around. Reducing the amount of seams is also another important thing. Seams are where water starts to leak. If you're going to have a problem, it's going to be mostly at the seams. So by reducing the amount of seams, by doing things like taping waistbands in, we've increased the life of the garment. It's also a preset tension that we have, and so when you put it on, it kind of grabs your hips and does not allow the pant portion to drop down while you're walking around before you get in your kayak.
Now, I also know that we paint the bottoms of these feet. I know from experience that fabric feet tend to wear out sooner. I'm assuming that's the reason here.
Yeah. You know, as we respond to what our customers tell us. When we first started making the dry suits, we did not paint the feet, and people just would walk around and puncture holes through them. So we decided to add some durability by painting them with a urethane concoction.
And finally, I noticed that the seams here are all, they're all very straight. There's no sharp curves. There's no extra panel work. What's the theory behind that?
Well, straight seams are easier to tape, and like I said, seams is where things start leaking first. So if you have nice straight seams and not a lot of curves and fancy panels, then you're more likely to have a drier, longer lasting dry suit. So
that's the Double D dry suit in a nutshell. The end result of this, and although it seems like it's a lot of simple, obvious things, this suit required a tremendous amount of work and development, and the know-how that went into it is really astounding. The product we have right here, we firmly believe to be one of the best dry suits that you can buy on the market today, especially for whitewater kayaking. And we're very proud of it. So, if you have any questions about a dry suit, please feel free to call us at our number here or write us an email. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.